What is going on, you guys? So I'm back with another video. In this one I'm going to be breaking down my bag work, why I'm doing what I'm doing, and just giving you little tips and tricks. So let's start with the good stuff. We're going to do some heavy right kicks, some Thai style kicks. I would like you to focus on my left foot, specifically the heel. Notice when I'm kicking, I'm having my heel turn and face the back. My heel comes off the floor very slightly, and having it face down. That's going to give me way more power in my kick than if my heel was just as it would be if you were standing normal, which is facing backwards. In the video, as you can see, my heel is turning and facing the back just for a split second. That's going to ensure my hips are facing in the correct direction. Everything is set up correctly. If you don't do this, if your heel is facing backwards, like when you walk, you're kind of kicking across, well, you're basically going against the natural movement of the kick. You're kicking against where you want to be going, and that just takes out all the power. See, I'm not explaining it super great, but if you try it on the bag, you'll see exactly what I'm talking about. When you kick, make sure your heel faces the bag if you're doing that specific kick, and then also try one where your heel remains facing backwards. You feel like you're kicking across your body, but it's an unnatural movement. Okay, so that's one very simple and very easy technique adjustment that you can use to level up your game. So I added that kicking segment, and we're going to get to that later on in the video. That's the very end. Right now I'm starting off my workout with shadow boxing. For the longest time in my career, like the first 10 years of my career, no exaggeration, literally like the first 10, I would pretty much always start off my workouts with shadow boxing. Basically, there are many different ways that you can warm up. You can walk, you can jog, you can do stretching whilst moving, skipping, so many things. Me personally, I like to do shadow boxing because it gets your body ready for what it's about to perform. Basically, from the research that I've done, if you're a swimmer, the best warm-up you could do is by swimming, just at a lower speed and a lower intensity. If you're a runner, a long-distance runner, well, you're going to do some light jogging in order to warm up. If you are a cyclist, the best way for you to warm up most times is going to be by cycling, but it has to be lower intensity and it has to be over a longer duration, so no sprints to warm up, obviously. Why do this? As I said, it gets your body ready for the specific movements and the techniques and the timings that you're going to do whilst you perform for real in the main part of your workout. Okay? Doing shadow boxing is getting your body ready for punching, kicking, moving, elbows, all that sort of stuff. You're working on balance, you're working on weight distribution, all that sort of stuff. Okay, whereas let's say I warmed up on the air bike, I might not have some of those very subtle details ready for the main part of my workout. But that's just a rule of thumb. Feel free to work out whatever way you feel like is going to be best for you on that specific day. But as I said, 9 times out of 10, I would do a light shadow boxing before my main workout, and I'd also do some like static stretches and just make sure every part of my body was warm. Ankles, knees, hips, my neck was warmed up, my back was loose, shoulders, elbows, wrists. You know, because martial arts is a contact sport, you have force going through your joints, and you have to make sure those joints are warm before you put any force through it, otherwise you're going to injure yourself. I'm obviously not going to go straight into super heavy bag work stuff if my joints aren't ready for it. I'm just going to get injured. And a big part of this game is longevity. Okay, yes, you can have a 5, 10, 15, even 20-year career, but if you want to carry on doing martial arts after that, you have to train for longevity. And the earlier you start to learn how to prepare your body for training long term, the better. So what I mean by that is you don't want to do a 20-year career and then think, oh, okay, let's start preserving my body for a 30-year career, a 40-year career. As soon as you start training, think of ways that you can exercise, but do it for the long run. Yes, you might have to reduce your intensity somewhat, but that's okay. You might have to reduce your intensity at certain times, but it's going to pay off in the long run. There's a jiu-jitsu saying, it's not who's good, it's who's left. Most people, let's take jiu-jitsu for example, either quit or they get injured, okay? Or they just don't have the discipline to see it through to the end, or maybe like personal circumstances get in the way. But the people that are black belts, they've had to overcome injuries and they've had to adjust their training methodologies in order to continue training for the 8, 10, 12 plus years that it takes to train in order to become a black belt. Okay, so let's have a look at some of the bag work stuff. Got some good movement here. Trying to keep my hands up as best as possible. I've done content in the past where I asked you guys for feedback and you very kindly gave me some feedback. You said keep your hands higher, and that's what I've been trying to work on in this video. Obviously your technique is never going to be perfect, or you should never see it as perfect, because there's always small details that you can build on. And 9 times out of 10, there's more than small details to work on. There's some medium and maybe major things to work on. Some big gaps in your game. And the idea is to work on those major flaws first, and then focus on the medium, smaller details in the long run. It sounds common sense, but people don't do common sense nowadays. Most people want to have this really strong kick, but they don't have any balance. They don't really know how to kick in order to generate a natural movement and to create a lot of force. They just want to hit the bag as hard as they can. Keep your feet moving. Ideally, you don't really want to be flat-footed for any period of time. Yes, you might save a little bit of energy, obviously whilst you're fighting, whilst you're competing. Towards the later rounds, you're going to get a little bit tired and you will naturally go flat-footed for a very, very short periods of time. But it should be just that, very short periods of time. Ideally, you want to be in your stance ready with, ideally, your back heel, half an inch off the ground, so you're ready to explode. Why do we have that stance? Well, because you're ready to explode in any direction at any given moment, and if you want to strike, you're going to generate a lot of force. Moving around the bag, let's see, switch now between low kicks, mid kicks. I don't really do that many head kicks, to be fair. I used to do more head kicks. Obviously, I'm getting a little bit older now. I'm 29 years old, and as a male especially, you're going to lose some of that flexibility that you had when you were, say, 14, 15, 16. When you hit the bag, you want to be visualizing your opponent in front of you. It's very important to visualize that opponent as the exact same height as you, with the exact same size, their shoulders are the same width. Why do I visualize the bag in that way? Because all my striking zones are correct. If I jab straight in front of me at the level of my own personal jaw, well then that's going to create good muscle memory. When I do my shadow boxing, my body is naturally going to be striking in the correct zone. Whereas if you don't pay any attention to where you're striking, and believe it or not, very few people do in reality, they end up getting into the habit of punching a couple of inches too high or too low, or to the left or to the right. It sounds crazy for me to say that, maybe, but honestly, watch people as they do shadow boxing, as they hit pads, as they hit the bag. Okay? They don't really focus too much on what they're doing. You need to pay conscious attention to what you're doing, all the small details. Make sure if your goal is to strike to the head, make sure you're striking straight forward to the head, okay? Not 2 inches lower, 2 inches higher. If your goal is to strike the jaw, okay, we're trying to be specific, not just at say the jaw, make sure you're striking at your own jaw height. So let's say you want to strike the nose, make sure you're striking to your own nose height, your forehead height. Obviously, if you have a fight coming up and you know your opponent is going to be way taller than you or way shorter than you, that's when you start adjusting your training. But the default should be your target being pretty much the exact same height as you. Okay, that way you're going to strike in the correct zones, and you're going to punch in the correct zones, you're going to kick in the correct zones. As I said earlier, you want to be very specific. So we're not just aiming for the head, we're aiming for the jaw or the nose or the forehead. We're not just kicking to the body, because that's a very wide surface. We're kicking to, let's say, the sternum or the abdominals. Okay? Not just kicking to the ribs, but like you kick high up on the ribs, high up kind of underneath the armpit area, or low down at some of the bottom ribs. Okay, if you're punching the side of the liver, make sure you're actually striking where the liver would be. The liver is actually quite a small target, especially if your opponent's elbows are tucked in where they should be. It can be a little bit difficult to hit the liver, so you really have to focus on exactly where you're striking when you do bag work, hitting the pads, or when you spar. Okay? Notice I'm not going 100% power on all of my strikes. Me personally, I like to train with quite a lot of intensity, quite high intensity, meaning I'm probably doing anywhere from most of the time I'm doing anywhere from 50, 60, 70, 80, maybe 90% of my maximum power on any given strike. Obviously, like you can see here, I'm doing lighter shots in order to set up more powerful shots. I was always taught to have your power come on the last strike, okay? Be it a punch or a kick or a knee or an elbow. That last technique is going to be the power technique. And that's where most people are taught and how they learn. Once you've mastered that, that's when you can start to switch it up. Okay? So you could do a jab into a power left hook and then circle out and finish off with a leg kick. Why do all of that? Okay, why not just do a power left hook? Well, you don't obviously want to be striking with single shots all the time, because you telegraph it and your opponent is going to counter. So in the example that I just gave, the jab, power left hook, leg kick, the jab would be to set up the power left hook. Might be a little bit of a distraction or a range finder. Then you go in with that big left hook, and then you circle out and maybe finish with that leg kick in order to score points. Okay, obviously, the judges are looking for, number one, damage, but they're looking for you to be continuously landing strikes. You could just do that jab, power left, but why not add that leg kick? Okay? Start with the punches, get your range, finish with the power kicks. Once you learn that rule, you then learn when to break that rule, so you can start off with your kicks and then maybe finish with punches. It's all experimentation, and it's all finding what works for you, your body type, your height, and how your body likes to perform. Are you like a slow starter when you're fighting? There's a lot of your power and a lot of your effective combinations come in the later rounds, or do you like to start the match super explosive with a lot of power then? These are things you have to ask yourself and things that you have to figure out for yourself. No one's going to do it for you. And that's why you see me practicing this sort of stuff in the back. Just doing some leg kicks here. Notice when I do my leg kick, I step out to the diagonal. So you can see here, I'm doing a step to my left. It's not just completely to the left, not like a crab walk, I'm doing a diagonal step. That way it opens up my hips and I'm able to not only get my shin horizontal with the ground, I actually at the last second angle my shin down. So my shin bone, you've got two bones in your shin, and one's larger than the other. That larger bone is going to bang straight down into your opponent's quadricep. And when I hit the bag or when I'm doing pad work, I like to try and hit the exact same spot, because that way you're going to start to really hurt your opponent's leg. It's going to go a little bit numb. They slow down, and that's when you go in with other shots. Every single technique has a purpose. That purpose could be to knock your opponent out with, let's say, a super powerful head kick off your power leg. But the way you land those sort of very impressive strikes is by setting it up. And you need 1, 2, 3, 5, 7 techniques or combinations or little strategies that you can use in order to set up that power kick. How often do you see people go into a fight in the UFC and they just have one technique? Never. It's always setting things up, and then eventually they find a weakness in their opponent's armor. That's when they go after the kill. Try and get as much of your body weight through your power shots as possible. I'm not just looking to strike the bag, I'm looking to go through the bag. So let's take the front kicks that I'm doing here. Obviously, I'm not just looking to make contact with the very first part of the bag. I'm not just looking to touch the material. I'm actually visualizing the center of the bag, and I'm looking to pass through that point with my foot. I'm looking to go through my opponent most of the time. Obviously, different techniques have different goals, different strategies. So let's say my opponent is coming towards me. Obviously the bag doesn't move, but just go with me from this point. If my opponent was coming towards me, my kick, my teeth, is used to just hold them away, to push them away and stop them coming towards me. But as I said, that might be an exception. 9 times out of 10, you're looking to not only make contact with your opponent, you're looking to cause that damage. Why? Because everything in the fight game comes down to damage. That's the way you're going to win the fight. You might see people that land a lot of strikes on their opponent and they look to be very impressive and they're doing lots of movement, they're always on their feet, they're moving around, and they might be doing these flashy kicks or flashy elbows, flashy flying knees, but if it's not landing, you're not scoring and you're not causing any damage. So even if you've got one person that's not really doing much, but every time they strike, they're making contact and it's having real-time damage on their opponent, that person is most likely to win. So yeah, here we're just doing some like jumping kicks. Notice when I do those jumping kicks, my other leg kind of tucks in, my heel tucks into my bone. That way, if my opponent is just doing some sort of leg kick, it's not going to hit. that leg that would be on the floor, and I'm not going to get swept. Okay. It's a nice little technique, and it's a good habit to make. When you're in the air, make sure you tuck that back leg in. Just like when you're doing a flying side kick. Ideally, you want that secondary leg tucked into your butt. Just like that. Secondary leg. That leg that's usually on the ground for stability is tucked all the way in. And a lot of my power is going to come from the hips. Okay? I actually say power actually starts at the feet. It might not look like it because people only look at the flashy things. They obviously look at what's happening with the upper body if I'm punching. But everything starts at the feet. I twist my foot, and that twists my knee, which twists my hip. And obviously you get a lot of power coming from your legs, specifically your glutes. And now I incorporate the weight and the strength in my core that transfers through my arm, rotating my shoulder, is going through my elbow, and then eventually finishing with a punch. Okay, so everything starts at the feet, and then you want to create an unbroken chain. Once you've mastered that unbroken chain of power, regardless of what strike you're doing, well, then you can learn how to break a hold and just do like snap jabs and things that are going to be not delivering too much power. They're used just as a distraction, or they're using, or the technique is being used to set something else up. I hope that makes sense. Just having a little bit of fun, doing some spin elbows. At the moment, spin elbows are quite popular in the MMA world. And if you want to hear more about that unbroken chain of power, which I think is something everyone should know if they're training in the martial arts, well, I have a book coming out, and I speak about it in that book. Okay? I'm not sure when exactly it's going to be released. I'm working on it at the moment. I've got about 200 pages at the moment, but I've created this book, which hopefully is going to be available physically, like a hardcover or a paperback book, as well as an ebook. I'm basically trying to get all of my martial arts knowledge, or let's say anything that I can write about, in that book. So hopefully I'm going to deliver a lot of value through that book. Just give me a little bit of time, and I'm going to release it. Delivering those elbows. Whenever you deliver an elbow, ideally you want to strike with the last 2 inches of your elbow. So don't be striking with the middle of your forearm. You want to strike with the blade point of your elbow. I see a lot of people going crazy, striking the bag. Obviously with bare elbow isn't the end of the world, but I see so many people strike the bag with bare knuckles. Yes, you're gonna strengthen your knuckles a little bit if you do it for like years and years, like 5 years. You see all these karate guys that hit crazy things like wooden blocks with bare knuckles, but I don't think it's a very good way of training. When you hit the bag, it just cuts all the skin off your knuckles or your elbows. So, me personally, I don't think you do a lot of that. Just put hand pads on your knuckles and all your joints near your tendons. Tendons and ligaments are going to strengthen just from actually hitting the bag and sparring and just training martial arts for a long period of time. I wouldn't worry too much about hitting stuff bare knuckle. One thing that I would like to see is when I'm at that most important part of the kick where I'm making contact. Ideally, I would like my head facing the bag. I notice when I hit the bag, I'm kind of looking off to the left. I'd say that's something I need to work on. If I do that in a fight, and let's say my opponent goes for like a right head kick, it could end up bad for me. And you only see these details if A, you have mirrors, B, you have someone watching, coaching you, or C, you record your workouts and then you can watch the footage back. It's so valuable recording your footage. And obviously you can put it on social media, but you don't have to. It can just be for your own improvement. You should always be looking at things you can do to little wins in this martial arts game. Every day you just want to come out of the gym 1% better than the day before. 1% doesn't sound like a lot, but I guarantee you when you've been training for like 10, 15 plus years, 1% is huge. When you first start training, you can almost double the knowledge. Like let's say you have someone that's coming in for their very first day. They've never been in a fight. Yeah, they might have. Everyone's watched a Bruce Lee film, but let's say they have absolutely zero martial arts knowledge. On that first lesson, let's say it's like an hour private lesson, you could double the amount of knowledge that they have in that very first lesson. Okay? Or let's say it's 50%. 50% increase, that's huge. Nobody, regardless of the sport we're talking about, is going to have a 50% improvement in their entire game if they've been doing it for 5, 10, 15, 20 years. It's just not going to happen. So that's why you should aim for those little wins. Here I believe I'm going heavy on the leg kicks. I'm really putting power in now. I'm trying to work my cardio a little bit. I'm trying to push the machine now it's been warmed up. And in the same way that I like to strike with the last 2 inches of my elbow, I like to strike with the last 2 inches of my shin, usually. Obviously because the bag is so thick, I kind of end up striking with the mid part of my shin, but it's not the end of the world. See, now I've warmed up. Those last 10 seconds I was really pushing. And lastly, just because the gym was super busy at this point, I decided to finish off with some shadowboxing as well. Keep the head moving, keep your hands up, keep your elbows tucked in nice and tight. I always have a bend in my knee. And as you can see, all my strikes start at the feet, or at least 90% of them. Obviously, I said there's exceptions to the rules. Sometimes you just want to do a jab or a cross or a slip or whatever it is in order to set something else up. But ultimately, every thing that I do is designed to deliver as much damage to my opponent as possible, which is ultimately the final goal in martial arts competition. It sounds brutal, but that's the reality of the game. Our goal is to create a very efficient machine and train in an effective way. Hope you enjoyed the video. Catch you at the next one.